special Sunday live stream with Justin Cameron. He was just on Friday with me, but we got him back. But we finally got David and Morgan back on. So morning, everyone. I think you folks are probably, it's a little cold for you folks, right?
Yeah, it's in the teen. Well, even less than that.
Probably in the single digits. I
Yeah.
think it was like negative 17 this
With-
weekend at night.
2 feet of
Wow.
snow outside. So.
It's so cold.
All right. I'm not sure if you and Justin had a chance to meet yet, but maybe you can quickly give your backstory, 60-second spiel, where you're at, and kind of what you're investing in. And that's probably what we're going to dig into today.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
I'm Dave. This is Morgan.
Yep.
We are from upstate New York. I'm a state police investigator. Morgan runs a household here.
We currently own 14 single family houses. Most of them are in Florida. We just branched out to Tennessee, and they are all in the sobriety home niche. And that's really it.
Yeah, we got started in 2020 and just full steam ahead at this point.
Very cool. I think hopefully a lot of people will tune into this or check this out later, because you folks have all joined the school community also. And there was a lot of people, I think, had a lot of questions for you folks. And I think that's why Justin also wanted to connect with you folks and jump on this live stream. So Justin, is this something that you're kind of thinking about in your market also?
Yes, I've thought about it before. There's other investor friends that are doing it in the greater Seattle area. And, I hadn't thought about it for a while. Then I was on the treadmill on a cruise ship in the Caribbean, and I was listening to your guys' podcast talking about it. I was like, man, in 5 years, you bought 14 properties, set up all these sober living, and the cash flow seems amazing. I was like, man, maybe I should look at this again, because I do have buildings that are perfect for this. It's just that I haven't spent the time on how would I go about setting that up. So, a little bit selfishly, I'm like, man, let me understand this niche. And if it works for me, I have at least 2 buildings, if not more, that are perfect for sober living, where it's kind of a communal type setup to where I could easily convert it. One would be 9, the other one would be, maybe 11 bedrooms. So I'm super excited to hear how you guys are doing it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, being on a cruise ship listening to us is pretty cool, because we're big cruisers.
Yes.
So that's cool. We're leaving next week actually for a cruise, so that's fun.
Yes, they chose that over coming to the one rental at a time event. But I think you guys already had that plan though, right?
Yeah, we did. It was already planned. And
so kind of just for our start and everything. Mark, I don't want to, if you're about to say something, I was
just gonna say, for those watching, if you can jump over to Justin's YouTube channel, he's also streaming live right now. So go subscribe and like there, comment, and there is David and Morgan's Instagram page if you want to connect with them there. So, but yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Perfect.
Yeah, definitely. So we start with single family homes. That's kind of the area where we fall into. And when we fell into all this, there's a lot that goes into it. It's based off the needs of the nonprofit in terms of what do they look for. We've been approached before too, hey, we have this home in, we'll say Phoenix, Arizona, but might not be a good fit for that area that they're looking for. They really have to dial in on the area that they're looking for. And there's certain metrics that they look for in terms of, for us, most of the time, 99% of the time, it's single family homes. That's the number one thing.
And I think that creates a little bit of normalcy for the people that have gone through the sobriety program. I feel like home is where a lot of people recover successfully.
Absolutely.
So not having like an apartment to live in or a duplex or whatever have you. So single family homes, 3 bed, 2 bath is a pretty typical setup for just in our specific experience for recovery.
And the way they run the homes is even though they have a president, they have a secretary, they have a treasurer, everyone has a job. And one of the reasons it works so well, the model works so well, is that everyone has a function in that house. So, they rotate chores every single week. Everyone has a purpose in that house. And that's really what makes it work so well. In terms of, we were approached last week of looking at a property in Texas, and all well and good, but and the area is great. It's northern Austin, but it might not work for that nonprofit. There's hundreds of different nonprofits out there that are within the sobriety space. Um, it is, it's I know one of the questions was, why doesn't everyone do this?
Mhm.
And I would go back to not everyone does this, just like not everyone does real estate. It's just it's not easy. And
Mhm.
even the sober living space, it's great returns. There's still a lot of work involved with it.
And that's where we got our start initially. We didn't do anything outside of sobriety from the very beginning. So we have, I think, become experts, if you
This
will.
is all we know
This
and
is
all we
all we
do.
know. We don't know anything else. And this is where our experience is. So I think that's pretty much a loaded question. And there's a loaded answer with that as well.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, trial and error as
But
well.
yeah, Justin, I want to let you kind of answer or ask some questions that you
Yeah.
might have as well.
Yeah, I love it. You guys did the opposite of me. So you guys are an inch wide, a mile deep. I'm like the other way, a mile wide, an inch deep in terms of different investment strategies, locations, and all that. So
Mhm.
the beauty of that for people who are just getting in is the compound effect. Is that they've spent 5 years doing the exact same thing, so they're super efficient, and they're using all the same team members. So that's pretty cool. I love that. I guess the first one would be, and I was just jotting down questions as you're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
there as well, is, you know, you're looking for your very first property. How exactly, most people never even heard of sober living. So what
Yeah.
triggered you to be like, oh, the sober living thing might be a good idea?
So when we first started looking, it wasn't on the radar whatsoever, to be honest. When we first started looking, I was looking at a condo in Tampa, Florida.
Mhm.
A trooper was making $200 extra. I thought that $200 would be a great, to make on top of my income at that point.
Mhm.
So at that point, going back to 2020, started listening to Bigger Pockets, and the 1% rule was the thing. So I
Mhm.
told the realtor, want 1% off the purchase. She told me it wasn't possible. I told her it is. And then we found a different realtor. So that new realtor, she introduced us to the sober living and said, this is it's definitely its own space, but you have to see if you guys are comfortable with it.
Mhm.
And at least from my perspective, starting out as a state trooper, it did give me a little bit of hesitation. But once you understand that, everyone in the house is a full-time working individual, they're plumbers, electricians. We've had one house that had a DJ,
Mhm.
and they're not the type of person that I would be arresting as a state trooper that's trafficking narcotics, and very, very far from that.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconception with the term sobriety houses or halfway houses. But initially, like Dave said, it was kind of brought to us by a realtor. And we had talked to many because here we are in New York. This is during COVID. We had two small kids. I was been glorifying the Airbnb space, and doing a little bit of research, and obviously we narrowed down to why all of these things would not fit for us
Mhm.
because we're not a local. So we kind of took this sobriety house, did a little bit of research, actually a lot
Mhm.
of
Oh
research,
yeah,
talked to quite a few people, did some more research on our end, listened to some more podcasts, and I think we just pulled the trigger. We
yeah,
really
absolutely.
didn't think too long and hard about it because this was going to be our first property. So we had no other prior experience with buying real estate other than like our personal home.
And
Mhm.
I mean, it's hard. Like Justin, you said that you have a lot of different assets and everything, and
Mhm.
I don't know if it makes it, because we're not in this space. I don't know if it makes it more complicated having 10 other, I don't know what you have, if you have Airbnb, rent by the room, everything like that.
Mhm.
I don't know if it makes it more convoluted. And at least from my perspective, it's 10 times more simplified because that's the only thing we do. And that's the
Yes.
only thing I know. And we're very good at it. And I just think there's a positive there for, just doing that one
Absolutely.
thing.
Yeah, we didn't have to juggle too many things. We basically bought the property, and then sooner or later, the house was filled.
Yep.
Like, I think before we even closed on our property, they already had a list of tenants that were going to be moving in. The process was pretty seamless. There was not one hiccup
No, not at all.
at all.
I want to answer Josh's question. I like this that we do this. So Josh's question was how many people fit in a 3-bed, 2-bath? So to give you the honest answer, we look at a lot of homes that are 4-bed, 2-bath. I know
Mhm.
that's only one extra bed,
Mhm.
but we look at a minimum of 2,000 square feet. Try to do more than 2,000 square feet just because it allows everyone a little bit of breathing room within that
Mhm.
house.
And there's usually we kind of like even numbers. So if there's 4 bedrooms, you can usually fit 2 people to a room. That's the max. Unless there's some properties that we have where there's a big, huge bonus above a garage, and they've been able to have 3 people.
Or a second dining room or a
Yeah.
second like 3-season room that you can convert.
Right.
That's
Right.
always a plus when you're looking at this space to have extra rooms, especially a second dining room that you can convert to another bedroom.
Yeah, we've thrown up walls in dining rooms and added doors and windows.
Yep, you name it.
Yeah,
Yep.
you name it.
And is it kind of like rent by room? So like I know rent by room, they use the term members, right? So
Correct.
is it you folks have tenants or?
Yes, yes, and no. So yes, they are all tenants. They rent by the room to the nonprofit, not to ourselves. So we're
Mhm.
cut a check from the nonprofit.
Mhm.
But they collectively collect their money. I don't know if that's right.
Pool their
English.
money
Pool their money
together
together as a house,
evenly as a house.
and then they give that rent check.
Yeah.
How would somebody go about finding one of these nonprofit organizations? Are they all local? Do you have some that are regional? Are they
Um,
national?
they're everywhere.
Everywhere.
Especially, I mean, so you're in the Seattle market. Yeah. To be honest, I would just look at either Google or ChatGPT is my new best friend, and then and I would just put in sobriety living homes in the Seattle market, and you'll have 30 pop up.
Yeah, we
Um,
recently, well, not recently, I forget, maybe a couple months ago, this past fall, was it? We did a show with David Green.
Mhm.
I believe I gave a bunch of nonprofit.
Yeah, there's
There's so
tons,
many, but
especially
on his show, I gave a ton of nonprofit organizations in this sector specifically. None that we have worked with, but that are super popular. I think people were asking too.
yeah, absolutely.
Then,
And and I know, Mark, you have a lot of different listeners listening, but
yeah.
and they're spread out all throughout the country. And it's just as simple, honestly, it's just as simple as going into Google or ChatGPT
And then find a
and look at
number
your
and
market.
make a phone call.
Yep, it's that easy.
Hmm.
Josh Burdick has another question. He says, "How important is parking?"
Good question.
Oh, that's a good
That's a
one.
really good question. Very important. So
We haven't had too many issues with parking. So not to dive too deep into tenants' personal lives, but a lot of them don't have vehicles, and if they do, there's plenty of parking for them. I mean, I think our biggest house might have four
yeah, 4 or 5.
cars.
One thing too to look at is that when you do purchase a home that you're within, we look at less than a quarter mile away from a bus stop.
Yes.
So you do have transportation, public transportation, but then you also, have the ability if you have a large parking area as well. But yeah, it's absolutely, I want to say it's a necessity. You do need to have parking, especially
Sure.
for a home like this. I would say
Mhm.
at least 4 or 5 spots is important.
Mhm.
And then being around the corner from a bus stop or public transportation.
It has to be near public transportation. That's part of our buy box when we're looking at properties.
And what's the typical rent for these? In Seattle, the rent by the room is typically, and this includes utilities. I'd say the low end is 800, the high end is 1,000 for rent by the room. And that's typically they get their own room, meaning no
Yep.
bunk beds or two beds. What would you guys say? What's the rent by the room versus a sober living rent by the room?
Yeah, it's a good question. That's a pretty good return for rent by the room.
Yeah.
So for sober living, we're based generally 1% off the purchase price of the home. So I'm not sure what homes go for in Seattle, but it's just 1% for the most part, 1% of your purchase price. And they'll agree to it because the benefit to them is the longevity of the home.
Yeah.
They want to hold on to that home for the next 20, 30, 40 years. And it allows them to be productive within their recovery.
And when you have like 7 to 9 tenants in a house and they're paying that 1% every month, I mean, it's really way
400.
less than what they would probably typically spend
Yes.
in an apartment
Yeah, absolutely.
on their own or even with a roommate.
Mm. I was thinking it was going to be much more than that. I'm assuming the
Mhm.
houses you're buying are 200,000 to 300,000. The ones in Florida, anyway.
Yeah, so we range from, I think, I would say
Okay.
our first purchase was 270, but that was also during
That was in
COVID.
the end of 2020.
That was the best time ever. Anyway, and then and we can dive into the our friends podcast that we had the other day. Mark, I know you mentioned that and how that was a good time to buy, but it's neither here nor there. So I'd say 270 was our initial price,
Mhm,
but for right now we're like 350 to 450, that range.
mhm.
So, we're getting 3,500 to 4,500 for rent.
Got it. So, and then let's just say it's a 4 bedroom. So you're like
Mhm.
$500 per person, kind of ballpark.
Correct. Yep. Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. Yep,
And I
that's a
think
good
the
way.
nice thing, and I don't know how it is with rent by the room, I'm no expert whatsoever, is that we have the benefit of every 2 or 3 years we will increase rent.
Mhm,
Nothing astronomical, just by a couple $100, just because we'll try to keep up with the current rents.
Mhm.
But I think the benefit of that is that it's a very stable house. There's no, I assume you have a lot of nurses, a lot of travel, people that are coming and going from different jobs. We don't have that. We have a very, very stable asset.
and that's actually the length of that time is the lease.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, like, when we first started, we were doing 4-year leases. Now we
Wow.
knocked off a year, so now we're in the 2 to 3 year.
I prefer, at first, I like the longevity of a 4-year lease just
Yeah.
because they're locked into that. However, if we're down to a 2 to 3 year lease, then I can keep increasing the rent every couple of years.
Mhm,
So it's a huge benefit to knock the lease down to 2 or 3 years.
right.
Got it. Do you think you could get more rent than that? I mean, it seems like
Yes.
you could.
I think
Absolutely.
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a couple homes that we do have that are in nicer areas that were harder for them to get a home. And so, yes, they did go above the 1% rule with us for a
Mhm,
couple of those homes.
Interesting. I'm just thinking now on the buy side. Typically, if you're buying a house, you're 10 to 20% down.
Mhm.
And the DTI for the person that's trying to buy their first one,
yep.
or their next one,
Mhm.
the debt to income could be an issue, especially on a vacant house. Could you get sign a lease or get a lease in place, take that to the lender, and then
Yes.
help your
Yep.
DTI make sure you
Absolutely.
qualify?
Yep. We've done
Yeah,
that a couple
yes,
times.
yep.
When we're in the middle of purchasing, I want to say 10 to 14 homes. Yes, I did do that. I did have a signed lease a couple weeks before we were going to close. And it did offset numbers for us, which is huge. And like you said, for people just starting out,
Yep.
whether it's your first conventional home or, whether you live in it for 6 months and then you turn it around and then you turn it into a sober living home, there's a bunch. I mean, you know this too, but there's a bunch of different options.
And then how about insurance is one question, and then is it more because it's sober living? And then a
No.
follow up would be all the utilities.
So for insurance, no, it's just we're based off just the same as a normal rental.
Mhm,
Um, I'll be exploring in the next year or two. I started to look through it already, but doing a portfolio loan and then just doing insurance through a portfolio instead, just more or less to make my life easier. Just
mhm.
because closing on, when we close on the next home, I have to provide, statements, mortgage statements for 14 homes. It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Insurance statements and everything. It's not fun. And that's more just from just trying to make my life easier.
Yep.
So
And then
Jason, so sorry. So Jason, who you folks may see at one of your places in the next few years, who he hit like 4 bars. He messaged me last night, but he says, "Do you have issues with the neighbors?"
Ah. Yeah, we
generally
have.
we have, I would say by and large we haven't, but go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been a couple, like, small issues, and it wasn't they're not terrible. Um, the tenants left the garbage cans out,
Yes, they were.
like, a couple days past the garbage pickup. So, we actually got a letter from the county.
Yeah, I think I got from the police department, which I wasn't
Yeah,
very enthralled with. I think I
yeah.
called them and told them not to send me letters.
Right.
And
I
then,
think it's more so out of curiosity from people, especially, I mean, most of our houses are in B
yeah,
neighborhoods.
there are
Um, We do
the-
have a house in an A neighborhood, though.
No, we don't.
Wait, what
I
about
haven't-
the
but-
Fort Walton Police?
Yeah, you want me to tell that story?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
you should. We've told this before, so if
Yeah.
you've listened to us, it's going to be redundant, but it's a good one.
Yeah. So we did get a call from. I got a call from. Well, you got.
I got a call first from the Fort Walton Police Department, and I had Mila on my hip, and she was having a little bit of a meltdown. And they're like, "This is Fort Walton Police Department," and I'm like, "Why are you calling me?" And they were like, "Do you understand that you're running a halfway house?" And I said, "Excuse me, absolutely not."
And they said, call my husband. He's at
And
work."
I said, "I'm really sorry. I don't have time for this right now. My husband is also a police officer. Can you call him?" And so they said, "Sure, no problem." So they called Dave.
Yeah, I'm usually really, really nice.
Yeah, and
then,
Dave was actually working at the time.
yes.
That conversation went a little different.
Yeah, so I just told them, I said, what's going on? And they said, we have a couple of tenants. They have gone back on narcotics. I said, well, that's not good.
Mhm.
And then that's kind of a no-no for a sobriety house. So they said they've have a couple of complaints from the neighbors. They were going around the neighborhood and, checking on door or whatever, checking on car doors, and
Mhm.
the police department was called. So I said, okay. I said, let's start the eviction process. And I think for Florida at the time, it was a 2 or 3 week turnaround, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And so I just told them, I said, listen, I'm in upstate New York. I'm a New York State police investigator. They said, all right, let's just forgo the 2 to 3 week turnaround. We'll just remove them right now. And, possibly as a professional courtesy or just whatever, trying to get the ball rolling.
Mhm.
So they went over there, they removed them, no issues whatsoever. And they called me back and they said, what is this place? And I said, it's a sober living home. And I said, it's not a halfway house. I've been to those as a trooper. It's not that whatsoever. And all of our homes they're gorgeous homes.
Yeah, they're nice.
And they said, okay. They said, would your tenants, they're 30 and 40-year-old guys, would they be up to go on a ride along with the police department? You go around for the day, you go for a ride along, see what the police officers do. I said, you would have to ask them. I'm not down there, but go for it. So they called me and they said, hey, we're going for a ride along with this, the Fort Walton Police Department, so we could just see what each other does. So then after, the Fort Walton Police Department went back over to our house and threw them a barbecue. And now they're they're good, very good relationship. Now that the Fort Walton Police Department understands what that house is trying to accomplish, and that
it was good education for the
Yeah, they're
community
trying to get back on their
members,
feet.
to let them know that you don't have, people trying to disturb the neighborhood. There was one small incident, but it was taken care of.
Yeah,
And
and that the police department's there to do their job, and that
Yeah.
they're receptive to the house, and the
Mhm.
neighbors became more receptive after the fact.
Mhm. But that was pretty much it
Yeah.
in the 6 years.
Josh Burdick has another great question. He says, how hands-on is management for you guys? Just normal maintenance, repairs, and that's it?
Absolutely. So
that's
that's
it.
all I would say. That's 95% of everything I do is maintenance,
Mhm.
which isn't terrible whatsoever. Josh, I would just say honestly, is the only reason my phone probably goes off every couple weeks is because the HVAC in Florida runs nonstop because Florida's hot. Otherwise, it wouldn't be going off as much as it is. And I'd really say it's honestly dependent on your market. Are you in upstate New York where you have to shovel out your tenants, or are you down in Florida where you have to run HVAC? It's really dependent on your market.
Mm-hmm. What did we touch on utilities?
Yeah. So
Oh yeah, that was the
Yep.
question.
so
Yeah, I
they
remember.
pay utilities. I don't pay anything.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep.
So if they run the HVAC, go right ahead. They're paying the
That's
electric
it.
bill and
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we do also have, with our current leases, we do have a thing in there as well, is that they cover any small minor repair up to, I want to say $200.
Mhm.
Just because there's always, a small plumbing issue or this or that, and I'll schedule it, and then they'll pay for that repair.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
Is insurance harder to obtain, or is it a different?
Nope, not at all. It's the same process as a single family home, and obviously we just mentioned that it is a well, I know what you're gonna say, but no, for the most part, insurance is fine. Florida is very. Go ahead.
No, Florida's just really difficult. In the past year,
Oh,
they're a nightmare.
yeah. I need to open my own insurance brokerage. But anyway,
Should we talk about the door knocks?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I forget who I heard. Was it Pace Morby talking about this recently?
Yeah, I think you did.
He mentioned because he had some properties in Florida and door knockers. There was a couple incidences where the huge insurance company, hired private investigators to go knocking on our doors. And then after a lot of phone calls to other investors, this wasn't just an us problem. It was a huge problem with other people as well. And they would question
Yes.
our tenants about what kind of property this was, who was living in the home, how many people,
Yeah.
so on and so forth.
So there's a couple things with that. Is oh god, what was that hurricane?
One of the
I don't
hurricanes,
know, there's
last
lots of hurricanes in
hurricane.
Florida. But anyway, so a
Um,
couple years ago, there was a large hurricane. There was a lot of policies that were called due after the hurricane,
mhm,
which is fine and that's normal. However, this insurance company, one of the largest ones in Florida, we'll say that, they were a little over their skis in terms of policies. So they started looking at a lot of their policies. They had one claim. It was a normal claim, just damage from a hurricane, and they found out it was this nonprofit. Now, these nonprofits are protected under federal law, the Americans with Disabilities Act. And you would think, any other person would think that they are protected. However, the insurance companies started going after these homes in
mhm.
terms of they should be under a portfolio loan, they should be under a different insurance policy, they should be off our insurance, and all these landlords should have known better. Doesn't normally work like that, and it shouldn't work like that
Mhm.
in every other state in the country except Florida. So, that was an issue that we're going back and forth with, and so I had to deal with the private investigator, I had to deal with the insurance company. So, long story short is I drafted a letter citing the, federal laws and some, statutes just because I'm very used to doing this with my job and profession. At that point, they backed down and they said there was no more issues,
Yeah.
and they kept all of our policies in place. Um,
And had we not known our legal rights or the rights under the government, essentially,
yeah, there's a couple federal,
they
laws.
probably could have taken a lot of people for a ride,
Absolutely.
but they backed down and didn't. We haven't heard anything since.
No, not at all. Nope.
Where was it? I saw. Was there? Oh, Flavio is asking, is there any screening or not screening? Maybe.
We don't do the screening. The nonprofit handles that.
Hmm.
So I don't know who's in the house, and that's by design. But the nonprofit handles filling the house and everything else. We are just there for maintenance and purchasing the house.
Hmm.
Josh Burdick says, I invest near Fort Walton on the Emerald Coast. Florida insurance has gone nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It is. I agree. It's a pretty place, but I agree with you. It's crazy.
It's almost criminal, actually, how high the rates are. But with that 1% rule,
Yeah, it helps out. It offsets
that
it.
really
And
offsets.
it's hard, I saw Pace Morby the other day wants to offload his portfolio in Florida, and I understand it. I get it. I'll hold on to those homes for the next 40,
Yep.
50 years. There's something to be said about holding on to those homes. They're doing well. They're positive. They're not negative cash flow. Not one house that we have has ever had an issue for the
Yep.
most part. They're great assets to have, and it's allowing us to build further.
I have a question for you. So I have one of the properties I have that would be a good setup for this. Well, I'll just walk through the stats and then you let me know
Mhm.
concerns that may come up, right? So, well, first off, it is. I believe in the past it used to be owned by the church. It's literally across the street from the church.
Okay.
The place where you get coffee and donuts afterwards, if you will.
Yep.
So I ended up buying this property, seller finance from the seller. Same seller I bought multiple properties from. It's in a kind of a smaller city in Wisconsin. But the reason I got it is I believe in the upstairs, I believe there's at least 9 rooms.
Wow.
Each of the rooms, imagine a dorm room where
Mhm.
it's kind of just a box. There's a counter. I believe there's water and a mirror on one side.
Okay.
And then upstairs, I believe there's 2 bathrooms at the ends. And then downstairs, there's like a big open area, one large bedroom that has a bathroom in it as well. Currently, I just have one tenant in there that has the whole thing. In the lease, it says, you're the only people that can stay here. And we audit that just to make sure they don't sublease it, right?
Yep.
Of course.
And then it's on a corner, so there's 4 parking spots off, off street, and then you can have as much as you want, obviously, around it. So outside of Mass, there's tons of parking.
Mhm.
Any things I should be thinking about if I were to set that up?
Are there any bus stops nearby?
I think it's a couple blocks off of the main drag.
Okay. And I take it that there's amenities in terms of Walmart, grocery stores, all that.
Yeah, it's a big enough
Okay.
city where there's retail. No, you would
Okay.
have to take the bus there. It's not like
Yeah, that works.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think it would be a good fit. I mean, I know they look for a lot of open single family homes.
They
just
want a
to-
lot of communal spaces as well.
Correct.
That's like a huge, I think the communal space, do you think that might be bigger than the bedrooms?
Yeah, I think so. Just so they can interact with each other.
Yeah.
That's really. I'll say this, Justin, is that Morgan and I have looked at some homes, and we've looked at them. I remember a couple actually in Jacksonville, and
Oh my
I thought
gosh,
they
so
were
many.
I thought they were great fits for a house. They were like gorgeous. They're white, or like a white siding is just like totally our vibe, and like black windows. And I was like, this is perfect. And the nonprofit said, absolutely not. And I said, I don't understand.
And this is like 4 years
Yeah, I
in.
said, this is a gorgeous house, and the kitchen's remodeled. It's a gorgeous house.
Turnkey.
And they ended up picking, I mean, the house they picked was fine too, but it was just more of an open floor plan. And they said, we want the openness so everyone can interact with each other.
Because that's how they remain successful.
Yes.
Is a lot of communal spaces, not a lot of private time in their room.
And every Sunday, they have a house meeting.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll invite over other houses and have like I don't know, I guess kind of go through what they're going through their journey every Sunday. So they like that large open floor plan
Mhm.
to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool, man. I was so you could, in theory, part of your underwriting is because you're already established. You run that, financials look great. You want to submit an offer. You go to your existing relationship and say, looking at buying this house, would you rent it? And does this make sense for your for the tenant base? And then it's kind of pre-vetted.
Absolutely.
Even almost as safe as you can get. You got a built-in client coming in, assuming
Yes.
the house is vacant. Man, this seems
Yep.
like a no-brainer. And it's
Yeah.
multi-year contract. So
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. Which I like that. I mean, yeah, I think there's just a lot of benefit. And, I'm not knocking on other spaces in terms of Airbnb, rent by the room. It's hard. I look at Airbnb and, unless you're, I don't know, have a pickleball court and foosball table everywhere, then like I get that, but it's just
That's all the
successful.
trendy stuff. We're not into the trendy. We're into the basic and boring.
Yeah. And it works.
As like simplistic as it sounds, even we've come across properties that have been perfect, and then there's a pool, and I'm like, oh God,
Can't do
no.
a pool. Oh, that's one thing,
Like,
Justin.
oh
is-
my gosh,
yeah.
no pool, because there's so much liability with that, and insurance rates go up even
Right.
more.
Mhm.
But to most people in other niches are like, wow, a pool would be incredible at this price. And we're like, no, let's stay away from all the fancy stuff.
Yep.
I
We
don't know,
just
I love
picked
it.
the only thing I would say is that, the markets we go into, they're all nice markets. They're homes that we could turn around next week and sell.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's one thing that we've always looked at. Morgan's always said she wanted a house that we could always live in, that
Yeah.
would be comfortable, take our 2 kids, our family, our dogs, all that, and say, hey, we're happy to live here. And at least if we're happy to live there, then I know the nonprofit will be happy
Yeah.
to be there.
Mhm.
Dang. I'm one of the properties I'm looking at selling right now. It is it's a 4-bedroom, but technically you could make at least a 5th bedroom.
Yep.
It's a triple wide manufactured home. I think it's like 2,300 square feet. But I should run this find a local silver living company,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
verify with them if I could get a lease in place, and then would just come down to financing,
Yep.
having
Yep.
a large enough loan to take out the hard money loan that I have. But man, this could be a game changer for me.
Yeah, not for nothing. I think 2,300 square feet, 4-bed, potential to push in a 5th bedroom is perfect.
Yeah.
That's what they look for.
Yeah,
So
the shared room, it's a grand kitchen where the kitchen, dining, living is all like it's probably at least 500-600 square feet, maybe more. Then all the bedrooms are off of it. So there's a central, and then
Oh, that's nice.
so man, I need to get on this ASAP, right? And then
Yeah.
this is that one where it's been the sidewalk to nowhere one. Well, now I have a new lot that I can build, and so I'm like, man, do I just create like a 6-bedroom massive house and do a massive sober living right next to it? I mean, if I could get a sober living company to sign up for it, I can do. There's a lot of prefab type stuff out there to where I could just
Yep.
build
Sure.
massive. And the other one was I was looking at is potentially doing. It's about 600,000 to build a duplex. So if I could do
Mhm.
2 side by side duplexes, 3 bedrooms each, I'm like, man, maybe this would be the best route.
I think with the duplex though, you'd have to convert it so it's you have to have some type of common living space.
Yeah.
So you're not split off.
Mhm.
That's the only thing I would say about
The only other
duplex.
thing too, they don't generally have houses next to each other. They like to keep them spread out.
Got it.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yep.
So that's another thing to think about too. They don't like to have them too close. I don't think because of like commingling necessarily, but
No, I think they just want to have space.
they want to have
Give 'em space.
space, yeah, between houses too. So that's another thing.
Mark, are you going to liquidate your portfolio and then go on this journey as well?
Hell no, I'm too lazy to do anything new.
Mark and I probably have the opposite. We probably have anti-sober living already happening in our portfolio. Drugs, alcohol, you know, yeah, we I'm sure we have some. In fact, I guarantee we have some.
Flavia,
And it's probably smart too to not. This is the craziest thing, but they can't be anywhere near a liquor store.
Well, yeah, that doesn't help.
Obviously, I
Well,
mean,
and I agree with you because there was a house that I looked at in Miami. Again, I thought was a perfect fit.
Yep.
Nope. It was because it was right down the road from a liquor store
yeah,
and gorgeous, gorgeous house. And
would have been perfect.
I very much pushed for it, and they said absolutely not. Which I get, makes sense. But Flavio's question, just how many bathrooms? Just at least 2 at a minimum.
Yeah, at a minimum, at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
and Josh has a question, but you also mentioned you folks also just jumped in a new market too, right? But Josh is
Correct.
asking, do
did.
you focus on one community or multiple across Florida?
So I did multiple, and the reason behind that is I didn't want to put all my eggs in one basket.
Mhm. I actually did a post on school. If he can find us on there, we have one account. It says Morgan and David Stanhope, right?
Yeah,
Or David
yeah.
and Morgan Stanhope, where I listed every county that we have a house in Florida. There's a couple in the same county, but typically they're all from Jacksonville down the East Coast, skip Miami, all the way up the West Coast.
And Josh, the reason behind that was just to hit on different metrics or different markets. So, we're in a couple places on the East Coast, and they're great. They're top 10 retirement places in Florida. On the West Coast, they're great for jobs and Amazon warehouses. So we look at a lot of different metrics of, U-Haul data, where are people moving into? And we
Amazon data,
Amazon, yep.
Starbucks pays a lot of money.
Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, and I want to say Whole Foods,
Yep.
they pay millions of dollars. So we piggyback off their research in terms of they'll place their business wherever.
Mhm.
And if you have a house near that, you're probably going to be successful because there's some type of infrastructure there.
Brian Waters, who was also on Friday with me and Justin, he's on Instagram. He says, half my tenants are growing weed in my properties.
See, there you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
But like we touched on, you folks jumped into Tennessee recently. Has there been a challenge or any difference really from being in 2 different markets?
Sure, I'll tell you one. They got 7 inches of snow the other day.
Oh my
that's
God, in
different.
Tennessee.
So
Ugh.
our realtor was trying to fly out to Tennessee, but apparently they don't get much snow or ice ever, and
No.
at all.
And we needed her at a property.
So
And,
yeah, we're working
she's
logistics
stuck.
for that.
No,
But
yeah. So
no, Tennessee's been great. Apparently, there's a lot of hills and mountains there.
The
found that-
topography is insane in Tennessee. There's a lot of radon on every property,
It's a gorgeous state. I'll give it that. It's
Yeah, it's
really pretty,
beautiful.
very pretty.
but it's been a challenge.
Mhm,
It
very
was a
much.
challenge to buy.
It's
our
been more
property
of
there.
a
A couple
challenge
weeks
to
ago,
buy in
we
Tennessee
closed.
than Florida. Florida, there's home after home. There's a huge market down in Florida.
Yeah.
Tennessee, you have small little communities everywhere, and it's awesome. It's just trying to find that house and going through. I think we went through 2 or 3
We went through
inspection.
2 failed inspections. Yeah. Which you know how much an inspection costs.
So we're ripping out, lots of money.
Yeah.
And Florida, we haven't had that many issues in terms of
Pretty basic.
yeah, having the
Clean
Mhm.
inspections, little things here and there, obviously. But and I thought I was pretty seasoned with looking through an inspection report until we hit Tennessee.
Yeah, yep.
And I was just flabbergasted with how much stuff
Yeah.
needed to be
Absolutely.
fixed in some of these properties, and being on mountainsides and hillsides and drainage and slopes, and unbelievable.
Yeah, and I would thanks for, your market out in Seattle. Granted, I guess there's mountains there as well, but I don't think it's as extreme as Tennessee. I think there's a lot of established neighborhoods out there. There's a lot of established areas, and the only thing I would say, and this is your personally your choice and everything, is we chose our markets not based on looking at politics. And when COVID happened and New York shut down, we had a lot of fellow troopers that have homes here had issues with trying to rent out their homes. So that's why we picked
Or getting paid.
getting paid.
Wow.
And so that's why we picked Florida. It's a very landlord friendly state.
It didn't
That's why-
shut down during COVID. Everyone
Correct.
continued to work.
I like a lot of, red states for that reason. And, it's not neither here nor there for politics, but it's just in terms of as a landlord to make sure that we're still getting paid.
Mhm.
Well, I know Justin has to maybe about 10 minutes left. I know I want to maybe touch a little bit on the Ryan Pineda
Yeah, we can do that.
Zuber
Yeah.
interview, and I want to get some of Justin's thoughts because he had some great comments on some of Zuber's the daily financial news, the recap. Justin, did you want to kind of touch on that video that we've all seen and maybe had a lot of thoughts on?
Yeah, I just actually watched the Three Amigos. Was it the Three Amigos? What do they call?
Yeah.
Zuber and Dion and Lumberjack. I just watched their reaction to it. It's probably not Three Amigos, but
Sounds right though. Sounds like it should
Yeah.
be.
the Avengers, maybe. I don't know, something like that. It was interesting. The first thing I thought was funny is that Zuber still has beef. It sounds like with Brandon. They seem like both of like two nice people. It's kind of ironic, but in terms of I think with I forget, it's Ryan and Brian, I believe, right?
Brian, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So both of them, their business model is totally different, and their tribe is different
Yes.
than Zuber, right? So I'd say the Zuber one rental at a time is get rich guaranteed over time versus they're Ryan and Brian is more quite honestly could be YOLO and
Yes.
you're trying
Yes.
to crank
That's a
out
good way. to put it.
Yes.
as much money as possible.
Mhm.
And they're typically focusing on higher income people that are just kind of fed up and they want to make money now kind of thing.
Yep.
So I can see why the splitting of their strategies and their messages to their people, because if you tell Pineda's group that it's going to take 10 years, they'd be like, there's no way in hell I'm doing this, right? And the other
Yeah.
thing is they make a ton of their money off of courses and masterminds. And
Yes.
Yes, they
so
do.
Social media.
exactly, which that's their model. And don't hate the player, hate the game. They're very good. I mean, I bet you that guy is making millions and millions of dollars a year.
Yes.
And so it's just a different philosophy. And I don't think they're ever gonna. It's like somebody trying to make another person, say if I'm Republican, hypothetically speaking, and somebody else is a Democrat. The odds of us changing our minds are like zero. This is
Yep.
the same thing. Like Zuber's not going to change Pineda's mindset, and vice versa, right? They
Yeah.
may agree on things, but they have different strategies because that works for them, and that's how they know they can live. And the other thing is like Ryan wants to max out, and he's still trying to scale up, even though he's already scaled up. He wants to go even bigger.
Yep.
Zuber's got money for days and doesn't wants to spend his time on what he wants to spend his time on versus so to me it was a great a video to show that there's just differing opinions. The only kind of issue I think that everyone has with it is that the message is that one is not as good as the other, and both of them work. You just got to figure out what works for you, right? Because I'm sure there's people in school that want to do exactly what Pineda's doing. They want to create a business, yeah, whatever the hot thing is they're doing now. I don't know what it is, but there's tons of overlap in these communities where they might gravitate more to Pineda.
Yes.
So I know Justin, maybe because you probably started, I would say, in Pineda, right? That would probably be maybe your initial journey, but now you're kind of like Cody Davis. You guys are both kind of coming more towards maybe Zuber Dion, right? And that's been a transition for you. And then Brian Waters also says on Instagram, yeah, he watched the video last night. They said they talk too much and didn't let Zuber talk. And those guys are just chasing the shiny objects, right? So
yes, I agree with
David
that.
Morgan,
Talked a lot, but didn't say much.
Yeah. So what was your guys' takeaways from the interview?
Oof.
My take on it is I agree with Justin. There are three different camps. I think Ryan Pineda, I do enjoy listening to him. I'll say that. I think he's really, really well spoken. I love that he was a collegiate athlete. I love that he has that mindset, and he is an absolute unicorn in terms of he can create a business and then run with it, and that's a very rare thing to have. I think Ryan would probably be a little more understanding in terms of Zuber's model and understanding that. I'm surprised he didn't interject a little bit more, but maybe enjoying the back and forth and getting the likes from the video. I think Brian, when you say you have 30 properties and they're not cash flowing and there's issues with them, I think you have no idea what you're doing. I think you got over your heels and you're trying to do Section 8 and all these other things, and that's fine. And if you're going to do it successfully. And
don't be 30 properties in and still question.
Dial in on your first properties that you own and make sure you know what you're doing. And that's okay. You know, I'm not trying to say it's a knock on somebody, but if you're going to get into real estate, you're going to get into crypto, you're going to get into whatever the heck you want to get into, stocks, make sure you know what you're doing and do the education first. Make sure you have a why first. My why is my wife and my kids and making sure that I'm successful because of them. And I think if you don't have that back piece and you don't have that, fundamental understanding of that asset, then there's big issues. And I think that's what you really saw in that episode that was aired, is that you have someone that doesn't understand fundamentals. In terms of Zuber, the guy knows what he's talking about. He's 10 years into it. And Zubers. Yeah. And like, I get they came from Silicon Valley and he had a large, he had a lot of money to work with to get started, and that's great. He still hits fundamentals every single time, and that's why he drives home for everyone. And I think there's something to be said about that for the average W2 person.
Right. It's kind of like the Dave Ramsey. Like I started out on Dave Ramsey, right? So before I was in 2015, I had zero debt, working at Amazon, making like 200,000+ a year, right?
Yeah.
So because I hated Amazon so much, I was like, because if I have no liabilities, I can leave anytime I want.
Right.
So, I mean, in hindsight, I took Amazon stock that would probably be worth millions today, paying that off. But at least I was debt free. Then I was like, well, if you're debt free, but then where's the income coming from? Right?
Yeah.
I do have to head out here, but one message that I got out of the other message of Pineda and Brian and then Zuber is that the risk profiles are totally different. So like,
very much.
Oh my God, yes.
Super high, and then Zuber is steady Eddie, right? And this, I'm speaking for myself, but I'm assuming Cody is the same way. So like, I was a mass expansion, high leverage. I was in 4 states, 6 property managers, 4 partnerships, and then short-term, medium-term, long-term, all that stuff, all at the same time. As I've, left the corporate world, now it's like, well, how do I do the same thing, but make it less is more and steady? Because, I go back to this quote a lot from a movie called Gone in 60 Seconds. And when you leave the corporate world, you want to, and the quote is, when you're gone, be gone and stay gone, right? You know, if I had a high risk portfolio, I've been reducing it, but if I still had it, the odds of me going BK and having to go back to the W-2 is high. So I'm like,
Sure.
if I want to be gone and stay gone, I have to restructure and get less is more. I'd rather have a couple of great performing assets that are good in the long term. I can make money on today, and there's very little variability. Because what was happening, I'm sure this is like Mark, a lot of my properties in the Midwest are over 100 years old. And the income, so I was at Amazon making over 200,000. My income at Amazon was steady Eddie, right? But my portfolio income is super variable, right? When you leave the W-2 world, there's no W-2 filling the holes. When it goes down in
Right.
income, I just fill the hole. So now I went from this, I'm trying to do this. This needs to be my variability.
Sure.
Mhm.
So if I can compress that, i.e., that's the Zuber model, one rental at a time, steady Eddie, consistent, you know, there's no one thing that's going to take you down. Versus if you go trying to go big, which you could make massive money, you may end up, you know, self-destructing and then being back where you were before you ever started. So that's why I lean, you know, definitely I used to listen to a ton of Pineda, and before I don't really listen to him anymore. I do like the
Yeah.
guests that he has on there, but that's just a different model than I am now because like
Yep.
I want to be gone and stay gone.
And I think his audience is the entrepreneur audience, whereas Zuber's is that W-2 9 to 5 working,
Mhm.
has kids, has a family, and that's his audience. And I think, you know, the vast majority of listeners on YouTube or anything else is that W-2 9 to 5 person. And I think that's where it really got lost in that interview of understanding
Yeah.
your audience.
Well, and they were really getting at Zuber quickly, I'll make my point. They were really getting at Zuber for making 800,000 a year, and he was able to buy all these properties. And I'm listening to it shaking my head because I don't have a W-2. I haven't worked in 8 years. And when I was working as a full-time special education teacher, I was making $42,000 a year. So we've grown our portfolio
But
with one
we're not making
W-2 job.
We're not making 800,000.
Yeah, I bring nothing to the table in terms of a paycheck. So when I'm hearing Brian crying, whining,
Mhm.
bitching, and complaining about not making any money, having 30 properties, I'm just shaking my head like, where did you go wrong? Because I don't have a W-2 job, and we've been able to do and become successful in our own right with one income and not
Mhm.
making 800,000 with that W-2, a lot less than that.
So I think with them is that long-term rentals, if you buy it cash flowing day one, those should work in any market, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Their strategies, and I have some like this myself, that in the COVID era, they worked great. And for example, I own 4 tiny homes,
Mhm.
and these things are absolutely crushing
That's cool.
in the in as COVID went up. And I was like, man, should I buy like 10 more of these things? You know, thankfully I didn't. I mean, right now, if I can break even on them, I'm happy with that. So
Sure.
they went from making, gosh, in the peak, I was making like over $1,000 per month per tiny home.
Wow.
And these tiny homes average about $50,000, right? And so I went from that to like I'm probably some months I'm losing $500 per tiny home. So I went from positive 4,000 to negative 2,000. So that's
Mm.
6,000 spread from the peak to the trough. I'm looking at either I need to buy my own land and convert it to being at least the negative is going into my land versus I'm renting from somebody else, or I'm going to sell these to somebody else, right?
Yep.
So stop that bleeding. Back to the when you're be gone, stay gone. I need to stop these negative ones that used to be amazing from 2020 to 23, maybe. The last 2 years have not. So you have to think about assets and adjust it to what your portfolio and your risk profile is as you progress in your investing career.
Yep. I agree with that
Sure.
1,000%.
And that's why ours is just so simple and boring.
Yeah.
All right. I know
It
just
Justin
works every time.
has to jump off. So thanks for doing this, man.
Hey.
Before you leave though, Justin, everyone that is tuning on my channel, go jump over to Justin while he's still streaming. Go subscribe there. Justin, we'll connect and maybe hit up one more time before Vegas.
Awesome. Thanks
All
for
right,
having
thanks,
me
man.
on. Nice to meet you too. And
You
Nice
too,
to meet you.
Justin.
6 more subscriber allows me to do YouTube lives.
All right, everyone, you guys hear that? Go jump over there
Awesome.
real quick, subscribe. But we do have some more questions for David and Morgan, so you guys can hang around.
Got
So
it.
thanks,
Have a good
Justin.
one, Justin.
Have a good one, Justin.
So yeah, I just want to quickly maybe touch a little bit more on the Pineda video because Deconstructing
absolutely.
Dreams does have a comment here. He does just say that episode certainly got the negative clickbait. Everyone has been posting and talking about a strategy that simply doesn't fit this community. Guess it's good for the algorithm.
100%.
1,000%.
Absolutely.
I think the one thing I got from so me and Zuber do the weekly kind of comment section recap, and a lot of things I noticed on the actual Pineda video though was a lot of people pushing back on the fact that I guess maybe a lot of people weren't aware of how much Zuber was making from his W-2. So that was a lot of the pushback where people were just like,
I can agree with that. I get it.
yeah. So that I would just say and Zuber did kind of touch on that on our week recap about it. So if you want to know more about that, check that out. But I think that was the biggest thing. People were pushing back at like, how's this? He's trying to tell people that are making 80,000 a year or so when he was making 400,000, right?
Well, that's where like I come in and I say to everybody,
It's possible.
it's possible because we're a one income family.
And I look at some as well as like Dion. Dion's a perfect example as well. And I think he has 20 properties. He just focuses on those 20 properties. And there's something to be said about that. He is not trying to scale his portfolio to 100 homes and have 50 investors and do all the things. And I like Dion's story a lot. Military vet, police officer, and then really just gets knocked down in life, but then just has these assets that really allow him to live the lifestyle he likes. And I think the one thing that I like that, we might have in common is that everyone out there could just purchase one property a year, one property. And it doesn't have to be in the most expensive market, but you could look throughout the United States to make sure it works. Whether it's a $200,000 house, a $300,000 house, figure out how you need to save the money to get there, but then you can start scaling. And like I said the other day to Morgan, that when we wanted 10, my goal was to have 10 properties within 10 years, and we far exceeded that. And I think there's a really big snowball effect, and I think that was not understandably. Zuber is making a good amount of money beforehand, but not everyone has to make that amount. You could have your normal W-2 9-to-5 job and you can still get into real estate.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might get lost too because they want to get into it and they see other people being successful. They don't know where to start, how to learn, how to grow. And I think that was our biggest asset is all the time and energy we put in.
I would say before you even think about buying
Yeah.
your first property, make sure you listen to podcasts, make sure you listen to Zuber, make sure you listen to Bigger Pockets, make sure you read all the books. I have an Audible account now and I just listen to books on tape. And everyone should also listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad because it's the best. And then, we have a couple family friends and they said, how do we get started? I said, listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad and then we'll talk after. And have your significant other listen to it as well, just to get that mindset. And then we'll go from there.
All right, I'm going to be ending Justin's stream side soon, but there was a question from that channel. It says, do nonprofits place a house leader in these homes or is it just tenants? And this is Kane. I'm not sure if you folks know him or Justin knows him, but yeah.
No, yes, they do. So they do have they're all tenants. We'll say they have 6 people in the house and then they all get various jobs. And so, yes, they will place one of those tenants as the president of the house and he will oversee that house. But he's also living there as well. They also have regional directors and a state director as well. So that goes for everywhere and every state that you're looking in.
All right, Dan. I just wanted to make sure we got to that question on Justin's channel. So let's see. So Alex, the accidental investor, he's also in school. We also just had his son on yesterday. We did a live stream with his son because his son is going to be attending the Vegas event for free. So
nice.
Yes.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Alex, I mean, if you want to know more, David and Morgan are in school. You can connect with them and pick their brains about the sober living.
Yeah, this was a similar question, I think, the last time we were on from Alex. I remember him talking about his 4-2.
Let's
6
see.
days for sober living.
Yeah. Oh, there was something about the lease. Oh, here. Oh no, where did it go? Flavio had a question about the leases. Where
I
was
like
it?
that. Alex is next to a Navy yard too, by the way. We have a couple of ours near Air Force bases, and granted, they're intended for sober living, but I like the infrastructure of military bases nearby as well.
And Flavio is asking, how long are the leases?
Yeah, we started with 3 to 4 year leases. Now we're probably around 2 to 3 year leases.
hmm
And I think there's a lot of positives to have a shorter lease, just because you can keep bumping up rent just by a few $100s. And I think that's great. We do not furnish any of the properties.
Nope, they find everything on their own. There has been a couple circumstances where the sellers have left things behind, which is great. We always accept them if everything's in good condition. A couch here, maybe some bedding furniture, but yeah, solely their duty.
All right, seems like people want to go back to the Zuber Pineda video. Chris Webb, Chris Webb does say, I get the idea of having a high income as a benefit, but Zuber replaced that income. The higher the income, the higher the replacement income is needed. And then Gus, who will be joining me on Tuesday, live streaming with Brandon. Hopefully he's thawed out by then. He's in like a Maine area. He's freezing. He says Zuber made 400K, but didn't he say the area he lived in was super pricey at the time in Cali and wasn't a lot in that area? Yeah, I think so. Part of it is Zuber was making a lot from his W-2, but I believe Olivia also had a well-paying W-2 job. The issue was they were both just spending it, right? So that's kind of why
Sure.
they finally went down the financial freedom path. And I think they were only living off of maybe one income. And that's why, primarily Zuber's income or Olivia was the one they were using to invest. I think the one thing maybe people just didn't realize how much they were making. And I think what's good is that now people don't compare themselves to maybe where Zuber is at or how fast he got there, because I think that's some people are kind of like wondering, like, man, I've been in it 5-10 years and I'm nowhere near what Zuber has accomplished. But I think now that the amount of income that he was getting from his W-2 kind of makes people aware that, okay, and I don't feel too bad, right? Zuber had this super high paying job, and where I'm at is actually in a good space. Hopefully people realize that and don't compare.
He also lived in Silicon Valley, so if you know California, I mean,
Yeah.
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then second of all, he said he wanted to invest in the Bay Area, but just couldn't.
Yeah, I think
'Cause
he
it wasn't
ended
gonna work
up, Mark, you
out.
could correct me if I'm wrong. I think he ended up investing in Fresno, didn't he?
Yeah, Fresno.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what he said would be one of his biggest mistakes, is that he was so stubborn that he consistently tried to make it work in his market before he kind of branched out whatever distance close to him.
I think also, Mark, just like, and I know you have a really good relationship with the Zuber, is that even though he's making that 400K or whatever the heck it is per year, that's not his message. His message is, if you're making 100K, if you're making 50K, if you're making even 25, and then you just need to supplement your income, it's all very doable. And I think that's the message that was not driven home in that. I mean, he tried, but wasn't driven home in that interview, that anyone can get into this. And I think Zuber had mentioned after the fact that, that video, it should have been direct. Everyone should have said, how can we help the 9 to 5 W-2 couple? And it wasn't directed at that. You have someone that sells courses, goes to the entrepreneur, someone that might not know real estate, might know a certain aspect of real estate, but doesn't understand the whole broader context of real estate and how to stabilize assets.
Yeah, so back to kind of what Justin. So it is the three amigos. It is Dion, Zuber, and Lumberjack, but that's kind of, I think, how they all complement each other so well. So Dion, like they talk about, is
I
the
agree.
one that kind of gets you to the stadium, lets you know it is
Sure.
possible, right? The
Yes.
W-2 worker, maybe never made over, I think he says 80,000 a year, 60,000, but he tries to let you know it is possible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Zuber's the one that's kind of at the game where now he's teaching you like how to play it somewhat, right? The systems is trying, and then now if you want to become elite at it, that's where Lumberjack comes into play. If you want to be this
Yes.
elite operator, so that's why they all complement each other well. And I think Dion represents, like you're saying, right? So he's telling you like it is possible, right? And
Yeah,
and Zuber,
absolutely.
Yeah, I thought, I mean, just personally, Morgan and I went to the Bigger Pockets conference in October. I thought Dion was a phenomenal speaker at Bigger Pockets. I think he's the closing speaker Bigger Pockets needs to have every single year, is not someone that's, you know, glorified through Hollywood and is a, you know, on a TV show out there, but is someone that's that's relatable. He is the most relatable person.
Because Bigger Pockets is intended for the relatable W-2 worker.
And I think that's what they've gotten.
So
away
having
from.
a lot of speakers as well at all of the conferences, not your $1 billion investors, which was at the last conference. I mean, Kathy and Rich Fecky are amazing. They're extremely successful. So I think sometimes it can be hard for your normal person to relate to that, but obviously Dion is extremely relatable.
Very much.
Yeah. I know Coach Carson spoke too, which was really great.
Mhm. Yep.
So having more people like that, because that's realistic, right?
Yeah, so I think that's the double-edged sword though, because
Mhm.
I think Zuber recognized that because Zuber and Lumberjack went to go support Dion because he was
Yeah.
speaking, and then fortunately Zuber was able to get on stage because Scott Trench gave up his spot.
Yeah, which was great.
It was neat,
But
yeah.
I think what Zuber realized was when he was there, as maybe we think how big the community is,
Mhm.
He realized that. Yes.
that nobody knows who they are really, and maybe that's why if you notice he's making more appearances on these bigger podcasts and bigger channels, which may not fit the community, but I think he's trying to get his message and brand out there more to
Yeah.
try and help so that more people can be aware of what he's doing and what Dion and Lumberjack is doing. Jason, I don't know. Do you folks do this at your sober living homes? He says, can someone come over and make me breakfast? He's toast, right? So he's had a rough night, seems like.
We'll send someone right over.
Gus is doing a lot of cool stuff too. He was also on Bigger Pockets. Shoot, I forgot what episode, but he's been a great resource also. He he got Welby Aselli, Don Barrera on my channel. So but Gus says, yeah, he got to start watching Dion, haven't tapped into him yet. Hear nothing but great things. Yeah. So Marlon RE says, with Zuber's income, wouldn't it be easier to just work 10 years and retire? Interesting point of view.
I agree. I think just the reason why everyone does get into real estate is that you have an asset that you can, for me personally, so I don't want to speak for everyone else, but you do have an asset that you can pass along to family. And you have a cash flowing asset that has tons of benefits. It's appreciation of a property. It's depreciation for taxes. It's, cash flow as long as it's positively cash flowing. It's something that I can teach my children about, and we do teach our oldest, he's 8, about what we do.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot of benefit to there. I would love it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get the high income, and I think with that and with probably working a corporate job, there probably is a lot of headache. There's a lot of frustration there. And at least with real estate, you get to be your own boss. And I think there's something to be said about that.
Mhm.
Yes, I think to that question or comment, I would say part of it is, Zuber's story though is that he went into work and he absolutely hated his boss or the new
Yeah.
boss, and he decided to quit. So if his plan or if he didn't set himself up to where you could just walk away, now either he would have been stuck working for someone that he didn't want to be there, or he would have been, hating going to work every day. And the way it also sounded was, it sounded like Zuber was constantly on a plane. So he was constantly traveling, doing sales. So, it could have probably worked out fine with the amount of money he was making. And if he did, set it aside for different asset classes. But I think it's the fact that you want to just give yourself options, right? So now Zuber has that option to, like you said, his assets pay for his lifestyle. At
Right.
any time, if he wanted to shut down his YouTube and shut down school and just enjoy his life, he could. But he's trying to impact people, and like he says, it doesn't change what he's doing, right? He spends 3 hours a day enjoying stuff that he does. He records, in the morning, and the rest of the day he's free. And so he loves his life, right? So I think it's just having that option and the fact that he was able to just go into work. Hey, I don't like this guy. I'm done, right? And
Right.
so, yeah.
And Marlon, I'd also say, like, looking at my work with state police, I like my job and for the most part, but I think I always tell Morgan it's mind blowing to me where people stay past 20 plus years of state police. I mean, if you love it, you love it. That's one thing, but I want to say it's selfish, but not to want to spend that time with your kids or your significant other, to travel, to do more, to pick up a hobby, and to just be attached to that 9 to 5. I don't know. There's just something about it that I just don't think, personally, I don't think is healthy. I think everyone should be able to live their lives and, enjoy their family, enjoy their friends. And I see it all the time with my work, people that work 20 plus, 25, 30 years. And at the end of the day, is for what?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know what to do either. They're lost. So I think that plays a part too in mental health.
And I think Zuber had said that too. After he left, he was almost at a loss for what to do with himself.
Mhm.
And, had, just it was a lot. What do you do with yourself at that point? And they found his why.
Mhm.
Chris Webb, who I'm going to call out because he's going to flake out on the Vegas event after buying his tickets. But he's not going to go now, he said. But he says, yes, relating to every person is great, but the BP crowd has higher incomes and can keep some content free for the everyday person. Zuber doesn't care because he earns off rentals, not courses. And I think he's answering Marlon's kind of comment. He says, isn't that what he did in the market and lost all of it? So, right. So initially Zuber was stocks. So that's kind of how he was doing. And he got cocky or whatever. I forget what he turned, whatever, 12K into whatever, 100 something K, and he lost it all. So,
Yeah.
but that's why he transitioned to real estate, right? And he didn't want to, but that's also to his credit. He also says one thing he would have done differently too is he probably would have got back into the stock market earlier if he could do
Mhm.
it again. But in hindsight, it's hindsight, right? Jason says Dion is the best. He is the one that got me started.
Great.
Jason,
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
Jason
he's good.
says, no, you nailed it with that income. It's about tax savings. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep. Another way to look at it, right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
thanks for doing it. I don't know if there's any more questions in the people, throw it in there real quick. If you have more questions for David and Morgan, we're going to wrap up real soon. Let's see here. Let me throw you guys. Is this the best place for them to connect with you if they're not in school? I'll put your Instagram page here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we have the school now, which has been it's been
great.
fun.
Yeah,
it's been really good.
I will say the platform's great. I know that Mark, you were getting on us about joining last time we spoke, and
I don't get on anyone. No, I do not bother anyone about it.
No, the push was great.
Though it's been awesome. It's very easy to use. It's extremely user friendly, even for me. She's better than I am any day about that type of stuff, and it's very user friendly. The community is awesome. There's nothing but good things I would say about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the one criticism of Dion, I would say, is he still uses the Mighty platform for his course, or not course, or his kind of subscription. But yeah, Mighty is definitely a lot harder to navigate than the school platform. And I think that's why a lot of people after a while start transitioning over to school, even if they have their stuff on another platform. John Litz, Deconstructing Dreams, who hopefully he's doing better. He had another eye surgery. He's trying to get his new Airbnb set up. But he says, I have 5 years left in my W-2, and the closer it gets, the harder it is to go in. The logical side of me says W-2 is the keys to unlock doors, but every day I have off working on my business more fulfilling. Yeah.
I will say this. I have 5 years left for state police as well. Every single morning I go in or evening I go in, it is extremely difficult as well. I've thought about I don't want to say every day, but I've thought as well, like, do I step away? But it's 5 years left. For me personally, it's a pension, it's, healthcare. It's something positive that my kids see me go and do every day. helping others. So there's something to be said about that. And my oldest, he'll be 13 when I separate, and that's perfect time to enjoy my family.
Yeah, and I think there's routine as well. I mean, you could quit your job and do real estate all day,
I
but
think I drive
the
you
way
crazy.
things operate in our world is we don't really need all that time. We're able to be successful
Mhm.
with the time that,
We're able to balance the two.
yeah,
for right
we
now.
can balance it, and yeah, you would probably drive me nuts all day.
I think too is that once I'm done, I know Zuber had said this too. Is like it's nice because we found our why now in terms of we'll do our real estate once I'm done, and I don't need to go get another second W-2. I want to be able to do our real estate, grow it, and then enjoy
And we
my
travel
family.
a lot, so I think like Dion does too.
Yep.
And we've got some big trips coming up, so the flexibility is really nice.
I know I need to go where Dion goes. He goes to some pretty tropical places.
Yeah, where was he? Just in Thailand, maybe?
He still is in Thailand.
Oh,
So
he's still
he's
there.
gonna be there for 3 months. I don't know. He's probably on 2.5. So he's gonna go straight from there to Vegas.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, we'll be way out there at the
Yep.
end of next year, or this year, actually. We'll be out in Bora Bora and Tahiti. So it's a long, long ways away,
Yeah,
but
it's the life.
it's the
it's where-
lifestyle. Yeah, the lifestyle. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think Chris Webb is just being a wise ass. He says, "What is school?" Because I keep trying to. Well, like I said, I don't push anyone, but I keep giving him a hard time that he's not in school. But yeah, it's a great place. John does say school is the best place for a bunch of like-minded individuals to network. Yep.
I think it's the best place for someone that wants to get started, and it's an awesome resource.
Yeah, and there's a vast majority of people on there, which I think is cool. Some people that haven't started yet, and some people that have been doing it for a while. So I think having that mindset and learning from other people, and helping when you can has been pretty beneficial.
John Litt says, since I do a lot of the repairs, it would help to have more hours to complete projects faster. Yep, absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so this was always fun. Thanks for doing this. I think a lot of people will be reaching out to you guys in the school community. Josh Burdick is saying, take your kids to the Cook Islands. Been there twice and it's amazing.
I don't know if
Awesome.
I've ever been there.
I've heard of the Cook Islands.
All right. Well,
Nice.
you
Thanks,
have
Josh.
a great Sunday, everyone. Oh, my
Oh, no.
connection.
Now he'll come back.
Oh, yeah, it's been. I don't know why
Mark
it's been
left. We're
happening.
gonna-
It's been always
Mark
it's
is
been
about to
happening
clo-
at the.
Mark is
Yeah.
about to close your podcast for you.
Yeah, I know. But I'll be back tomorrow with Cody Davis, same time, 10:45 a.m. Eastern. And everyone have a good Sunday. Thank you.